There's something to be said about living in constant fear.
All I ever wanted in life was to be a good dad, to give my kids a loving father.
I was constantly worried that my kids were going to be taken away from me. This is textbook grooming behavior. Why are you arresting my husband?
All of a sudden, I'm like, I was going to get stabbed.
The vindictiveness is not going to go away. So, yes, you will be targeted again.
If you're ever talking to a person in power and they later lie to you, there's nothing you can do about it.
This is perjury, only it's perjury from the police, which is way worse.
How much blood are you testifying was there in the car?
I saw handprints on the windows, on the doors, like they were trying. Someone was trying to claw out.
But I think he finally realized that I was innocent. I just think it was too late at that point.
The social conviction was the real punishment.
People treat you way differently. It's like you have some sort of incurable disease.
Don't come back! You come back, I'm calling the cops. I have had it with you two.
If my daughter took her own life, that would absolutely ruin us.
I had the distinct impression that there were wolves in the flock at church, and I could not shake it. That there were people at church who were going to hurt my children to punish me.
This is not justice.
I have been blackmailed and told, if you don't do what we want, we're going to accuse you of child abuse.
What was I supposed to do? I knew what the law was, but I didn't know if it was going to get followed. It was like a no-win situation. There was no right answer.
You cannot take my daughter from me!
I cannot believe the arrogance of the judges.
We would be the first people ever to be excommunicated for attending church.
She said she had bought a gun.
You also testified that you hit him, right?
She said, you know, Hannah, that could be perceived as sexual assault.
I tried to pull his hair, and I hit him in the back.
Gossip and rumors had now morphed into fact.
I'll write this up and basically get it to the chief.
We had already done everything in our power to try to resolve the issue quietly.
There were now officially no more options.
I was so freaking discouraged, just sitting, wondering what just happened and how.
Phontaine was born in Chicago, but grew up in California, the second oldest of 4 children. He was an outgoing and optimistic child, full of ideas and energy. Then, when he was still young, his parents became embroiled in a bitter divorce which lasted for years. After both his parents remarried and started new families, he found himself on his own, moving from house to house. So he focused his energies on school and scouting. He became an Eagle Scout and a valedictory scholar, despite the familial drama. He then spent 2 years serving a full-time mission for his church in Taiwan, where he learned Chinese.
你觉得我们台湾的交通怎么样？
好玩。
哦，为什么？
因为它像是生活化的游戏。
啊？好像电动是？
电动游戏有没有？这边来敌人哈，这边来敌人哈，这前面又来敌人哈，就是好玩。
After his mission, Phontaine went to BYU to follow in his father's footsteps, but it didn't go as he planned.
I originally went to BYU to be an orthodontist. They had a great pre-med program. I interviewed a whole bunch of orthodontists and dentists, and I determined, oh, that's the way to go. Like, stable family life, good income, respected in the community, like all of that. And I went to God with that, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be an orthodontist. And it was like, nah, wrong answer. I'm like, what else is there? The only other thing I'd ever even done in high school was film. And it was like, ding, 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 we have a winner. I'm like, what? Really? Really? okay, if that's what God wants, that's what I'll do.
Hannah grew up in Florida as the third oldest of 11 children. She loved having so many siblings and decided early on that she wanted a big family of her own.
We had a large family and we belonged to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And because of that, everybody knew us, but they kind of were a little suspicious of us because it wasn't a very popular religion in the South. So because of that, there was this unspoken pressure. I knew that I had to behave really well. Otherwise, people would blame my parents. Oh, they have too many kids.
Hannah loved playing the piano and dancing, but she believed she wasn't as naturally talented as her other siblings. So she decided to work extra hard to compensate, and as a result, she excelled scholastically as well as artistically, and was awarded a full-ride academic scholarship to BYU.
In high school, my senior year, I took a TV production class, and I had so much fun. And so when I went to BYU, I decided I'm going to study film.
Hannah and Phontaine first met at BYU Provo, where they were both preparing for an upcoming film festival.
In college, it seemed like everybody knew Phontaine. He had this outgoing, zany sense of humor.
Chuck?
The one you know as Chuck is tied up at home in his parents' basement. I am Imperial Consul Hezbon 12, his Venusian replicant.
And every year they had a student film competition, and he did a kung fu movie called Rumble in the Colony, and it was voted audience favorite for 2 years in a row, parts 1 and 2. People came to the film festival just to see his short film. But one of the things that he was also known for is if any students were having trouble with the equipment or a project they were working on, Phontaine was known for, hey, he'll help you out if you need it.
On their first date, Phontaine asked Hannah how many children she wanted, to which she replied, 8. Phontaine was ecstatic because he also wanted a large family, but he cut the relationship short when he learned Hannah was only 19 years old. The next year, though, while on a film shoot together, Phontaine rekindled the relationship.
One of the things I really loved about Hannah when I first met her was she was very easy to talk to, but she has that capability with everybody. She can make people feel at ease, and part of it I think is her sincerity and just her genuine nature, and that was one of the things that I really found attractive when I first met her.
So a month later, on their third date ever, Phontaine unceremoniously asked Hannah to marry him.
Phontaine goes, you know, I could totally marry you. And I said, I could totally marry you. And he said, wait, if you could totally marry me and I could totally marry you, we should get married. And the next thing I knew, he was getting his calendar and he said, well, let's see, we could get married in August, December, or April. You don't want to wait all the way till April, do you? I said, no. And he said, and Christmas, you don't want to get married at Christmas, do you? I said, no. He said, August it is. We hadn't kissed or anything. We gave each other a hug and had it on the calendar. It was the scariest thing I have ever done.
L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see.
2 months later, Hannah and Phontaine were married in the Orlando, Florida temple, and by the time they graduated, their first child, Tia, was born, and their second one was on the way. After graduating from film school, Phontaine worked in Hollywood for over a decade as a reality TV editor. He worked on shows like The Biggest Loser, For Love or Money, Dirty Jobs, American Hot Rod, and Top Shot. He was even the recipient of the Ace Eddie Award for Best Edited Reality TV Show.
The award goes to Leonard Feinstein and Phontaine for Greensburg, The Tornado.
Hannah was a full-time mom. She would take her kids to museums, have them watch documentaries, and work on expanding their minds.
Look at that. Those are 2 wolves.
Wow. Oh, a moose.
Did you ever think you looked so good?
You know that love was made for me and
Phontaine worked as a freelance TV editor for several different companies, but his favorite was Pilgrim Films. It was run by Craig Piligian, and he was known for treating his editors well. Craig would give reasonable deadlines, flexible work hours, and good pay.
All the best editors in town wanted to work for Pilgrim, wanted to work for Craig's company.
Phontaine did not have a lot of interactions with Craig.
I remember the first phone call I ever got from Craig, and it was not good. I had been working on a show called American Hot Rod for about a year at that point, and I get a call in my bay, and I pick up, and it's Craig Piligian, and he goes, "Did you work on that effing show about Elvis and the pink Cadillac?" I'm like, "Yeah," because we had just finished a tribute show about Elvis Presley, and they had built a pink Cadillac. And he goes, "Well, you just effing ruined my effing relationship with Graceland." And I'm like, "What did I do?" Turned out that during the show, the guys are building the car, and they were putting like all these cool electronics and TVs and all this stuff because Elvis was like really excited about electronics and stuff.
And they were talking about having Ken put like neon lighting or something in around here.
What? Actually, I have some.
Some pink neon, little disco ball in there.
Can you make it come out of the center?
There's already a TV in the thing. I mean, we might as well go full mini truck. Elvis was all about the glam.
And one of the guys in the shop commented, the sheer volume of stuff they were putting into this car. He's like, "What are we going to put in there next? A toilet?" And I thought it was funny, so I put it in the show. Well, it ended up airing, and then Graceland calls Craig all mad. Well, I didn't know this, but apparently Elvis actually died on the toilet. And so Graceland took offense at that and got mad at Craig. And so I explained it to Craig, and I asked sheepishly, I'm like, "So am I fired?" And he goes, "Nah, you have too many effing kids." And I remember thinking, oh, okay, so it's not because I'm a great editor or anything, it's because I have too many kids? Okay, well, at least I still have a job.
Phontaine ended up working for Pilgrim on several of their shows, and that was when he won the Ace Eddie Award. To congratulate Fontaine's success, Craig bought Hannah a large bouquet of flowers and Phontaine a bottle of expensive champagne.
He handed it to me and said, "I know you don't effing drink, but this is for you."
Later, when Sassafras was born, Craig surprised the Judds by sending a bouquet of cookies for all their kids. Tia, who was around 8 years old at the time, made up a joke for Craig.
It went like this. If Craig was in the Air Force, what plane would he fly? An F-bomber! I told it to Craig. And he laughed. He thought it was funny because it was pretty clever.
Hi, Trixie. Hi, superstar. I need a smile from Ruby. Hi, Buttercup.
That's funny. She looks a lot like Caleb.
Although his career was going well, starting in 2006, Phontaine began having some weird health problems.
I used to play basketball all the time, 3 times a week. I'd also go to the gym and work out, lift weights. And at first, what happened was, after lifting weights, I would get lightheaded. Kind of like when you blow up too many balloons, only way worse. And I would get home and I'd have this pounding headache and I'd feel like I needed to throw up. I finally had to give up weightlifting.
Then a year later, the same thing started happening when he would play basketball.
I finally had to stop playing basketball, which really bummed me out because I love basketball. I love playing basketball.
After that, his health started going downhill rapidly. Soon it got to the point by around 2010, If he even went on a walk around the block with his kids, he would get weak and pale and nauseated.
Eventually it got to the point where I couldn't even sit in my chair without getting sick. Like sitting in a chair editing was too much physical exertion. And then some days it was so bad where I couldn't even focus. I had a creative job and I couldn't do it. And so on the days that I felt better, I had to like work twice as hard to make up for the off days. I thought it was something I was eating because I knew that synthetic nitrates and MSG made me way sicker. We're like, we don't know what it is, but we had all the symptoms of being poisoned by something.
Hannah had similar symptoms, but not as severe. She was pregnant, but had not gained any weight during pregnancy. She and the kids all had chronic diarrhea, headaches, and extreme fatigue. Their arms would itch constantly, and they had a pain under their right rib after every meal.
My husband, all our kids, like, oh, my rib hurts, my rib hurts.
At the same time, Phontaine had been going to doctor after doctor after doctor. They all said he was perfectly fine, and what he really needed was Prozac.
I'm too tired. I had accumulated 7 prescriptions for Prozac. 7. But I didn't fill any of them because I knew that wasn't the problem. It wasn't depression. It was something else.
By 2010, Phontaine could no longer exercise and was having trouble eating. He had lost nearly 40 pounds and seemed to have the symptoms of early liver failure. There were days when his muscles were so tight he could not move, and other days he was so weak he was physically unable to get out of bed. Any time he would exert himself, he would get strange rushes of adrenaline and start shaking, completely incapacitating him, and it was rapidly getting worse. He finally decided he had to quit his job and seek medical treatment.
I was working on Top Shot, and I had to go to my executive producer, and I had to tell him, hey, I can't do it anymore. There's something physically wrong with me.
Phontaine knew Hannah's father, Troy, was a very thorough doctor, so he asked if he could help figure out the problem. Troy got to work and ordered blood work to rule out heavy metal poisoning, and when that came back negative, Phontaine flew out to Wyoming to get treated in person. While Phontaine was in Wyoming, Hannah became worried he was getting too sick to function on his own and called 911 to get him checked into a hospital. Instead of sending an ambulance, however, the dispatcher sent the police to Phontaine's hotel. They broke down the hotel door and dragged Phontaine out. Because Phontaine had lost so much weight and was so thin and so pale and had sores on his arms and body from the constant itching, the police assumed he was a meth addict. They took him to the hospital and drew his blood, but the ER doctor couldn't figure out what was wrong. The police were sure he was engaged in some sort of criminal activity, so they took away his clothes, had him wear an orange jumpsuit, and put him into a solitary jail cell for the night. In the morning, Hannah made phone calls trying to track down her husband. Finally, she got in contact with the police department. The officer told Hannah that Phontaine was undergoing detox.
I told the officer, I said, no, he's not on drugs. The reason he is so thin and pale is because he's sick. The police chief or whoever I was talking to, he's like, well, we'll see about that when we get his test results back.
Shortly thereafter, the officers let Phontaine out of his cell. The staff sergeant came over and apologized for what had happened. He had just gotten the test results, and Phontaine was completely drug-free.
He was really polite and kind. He said he was deeply sorry about what had just happened, but I think he realized they really screwed up.
Later, Phontaine appeared before a judge who dismissed all charges. After Hannah learned what happened, she realized it was a mistake to have sent Phontaine to Wyoming by himself when he was so sick. Hannah called her father-in-law Lynn and told him the scenario. Lynn immediately offered to come get his grandkids and bring them back to Sacramento to stay with him, while Hannah went to Wyoming to be with her husband. That night, Hannah flew out to Wyoming to be with Phontaine. Despite running a bevy of tests, Dr. Jones wasn't able to find what was wrong with Phontaine. So the Judds called the Mayo Clinic in Arizona, who accepted Phontaine as a patient. Their new doctor got to work running more tests. A week later, Fontaine's primary doctor diagnosed him with neurocardiogenic syncope, or NCS. It's also known as low blood pressure. While the Judds were happy to have a diagnosis, they were not convinced it was correct.
I thought the neurocardiogenic syncope was a symptom of a larger problem, not the problem itself.
The Mayo Clinic prescribed Phontaine salt tablets, Gatorade and blood pressure medication to keep his blood pressure up. As soon as the Judds had their diagnosis, Hannah flew back to Sacramento to pick up the Judd kids, but was surprised at what she saw.
My kids looked way better. They had rosy cheeks and were energetic, and I swear some of them had grown taller. So I asked my mother-in-law, I said, so, what did you feed the kids while they were here? And she's like, hot dogs and chicken fingers and Burger King Whoppers. And I'm like, seriously? I've been feeding them like organic this and organic that and spending all this money, and you fed them hot dogs? And my kids looked way better.
Hannah decided maybe the diet was the problem. The next day when she got home to Burbank, she promptly bought hot dogs and chicken fingers for the kids, copying what Linda had done. But it didn't work. Within 24 hours, the Judd kids got pale and sickly again, laying on the couch and not feeling well. The Judds began wondering if LA was the problem. Back home in Burbank, the bishop offered to help the Judds with food from the church storehouse. The Judds declined because they were still doing okay financially, despite the health setback.
We had money in savings. We also had a rental property in Florida.
I was always taught that when it came to asking for help, the proper order was this. You did everything in your power first. And then if that failed, then you'd go to family. Then you would go to the church, and the government was like a distant third.
The Judds decided to sell their Florida rental to help pay their expenses.
Hey, Trix! Trixie, come back, get some snowshoes on.
The Judds had now been trying to resolve the health issues for years. They had tried different diets, air purifiers, water purifiers, and doctor visits, but nothing was working.
We always had exercised, we didn't smoke, we didn't even drink, we didn't even drink coffee. I would always cook really healthy meals. And so we began thinking, what if LA, there's something toxic here that's just making us sick?
The Judds decided to do a one-year experiment and move away from LA. They were not sure where to go, so they researched which areas of the country had the cleanest air and cleanest water.
We were debating where to go. Like, should we go to Idaho, Oregon, Texas, Florida, or even Sacramento? Some of the places had clean air, some of the places had clean water, but none of them had everything.
The Judds ultimately decided on Sacramento. Their kids had done well there, it had clean water, and Phontaine's family was nearby. Plus, Phontaine found a small production company there that offered him editing work.
The pay was about 75% what I was used to making in LA, but living in Sacramento, we would have a much lower cost of living, so it would still be decent.
The Judds got to work finishing the renovations they had started on their Burbank home.
Look at my hard-working kids.
The blood pressure medication gave Phontaine just enough energy to get the work done.
It was a little overwhelming, but I would, every day after work, until like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then on the weekends, on Saturdays, I would work really hard on finishing the flooring or the drywall or the plumbing or the bathrooms or the bookshelves or whatever. And I gotta say, it did take a few months. But I was very pleased with the final results. It turned out really well.
The Judds put their house on the market, and it sold almost immediately. With the cash from the sale, they purchased a modest home in Sacramento. In April of 2011, the Judds packed up their belongings to move to Sacramento.
Miss you, Judds. Love the cake. Oh, we're gonna miss you so much. Your kids.
The move out of LA immediately paid dividends.
The day we moved to Sacramento, the headaches stopped. And then after being there for 3 weeks, my kids who had just been picking at their food before, they started asking for seconds and thirds. And I noticed that their coloring started improving and everybody's energy started improving. 6 months into the move, that pain that had been on the right side of the rib, that went away. And my kids started growing better. They had been like in the 30th, 40th, 50th percentile on the growth chart. And after we moved, almost all of them jumped up on the growth chart where they were soon in the 70th, 80th, and even 90th percentile in height.
Phontaine was able to get off the blood pressure medication completely and began to be able to do mild exercise again, including playing some basketball. It was obvious that the move was benefiting everyone's health. At the 1-year mark, the Judds decided their experiment was a success. They were going to stay in Sacramento. There was just one problem with staying in Sacramento. Phontaine's career as a TV editor was based in Hollywood, where there were countless production companies to work for. In Sacramento, there was just the one, and it was not giving him enough work.
What was happening was I would send the show in for notes, and they wouldn't get back with me for 2 weeks. And I would have nothing to do. I wasn't getting paid because I'm freelance. So there'd be 2 weeks of work and then 2 weeks of waiting around for notes, which is not how it worked in LA. In LA, I would work for 2 weeks, send the show in for notes and get them back the next day or the day after, and we'd address the notes. And I was working really steadily, or they'd put me on another show or something in the meantime.
At that point, Phontaine was not making enough to pay the bills. The Sacramento production company wasn't going to work out. His only option was to travel back to LA and work and then come home on the weekends. In the meantime, the Judds began integrating into their new community. They joined the scouting program, the swim team, football, soccer, and ballet. They felt like they had a new lease on life.
This plan got a special moniker. Added something. Tasmanian Devil.
The Judds were happy their children had recovered enough to not only play sports, but also enjoy them. The health of their family seemed to be improving. They just had one problem. Their house was too small.
It was pretty cramped. Our new home was 1,200 square feet, and there were 10 of us living there. There was no place to go for privacy. I remember Hannah had to there was a mandatory time period in the afternoon where no one was allowed to make any noise, just so everyone could kind of decompress. I also remember, sometimes Hannah would have to go out and just sit in the car to get a little peace and quiet. I remember Tia climbing on the roof at one point to get away, just kind of to have some alone time. But the other problem was, though, if someone got sick, it would affect everybody. So I remember at one point, I think we had Falcon sleeping in the bathtub just so his sickness wouldn't disrupt anybody else.
Why are you in bed?
Went to bed last night, 9:30, and Blackstone throws up all over in his bed. So you and I get it all up, move all the dirty clothes and everything out to the back porch to take care of today. And he's in the tub, and then we're getting into bed, and he throws up again. So we have to shower him off again and move all the blankets and everything out to the porch. And then Falcon kept waking up screaming at Caleb, going, Caleb, don't do it, don't, no. There's no place to sleep. There's no place I can go to get sleep here. Actually, at one point I was like, I should just go out to the car.
Then exciting news hit. Hannah found out she was expecting twins.
The doctor points to the screen and there's these 2 little beans on there. And I'm like, oh, twins. I was so excited.
The Judds decided it was time to find a bigger home. Over the next year, they shopped for houses, a lot, sometimes visiting 2 or 3 a night. They repeatedly put in offers, but none of their offers got accepted. So they started putting in offers above asking price, but that did not work either.
I was getting really anxious about the housing situation. What were we going to do? It was already cramped as is with the 10 of us. What was going to happen when we had twin newborns?
Lord and Mama will be two of a kind, working on a full house.
While shopping for a larger home, the Judds began fixing up their current home for sale or rent.
This is our living room. So we got this wall. And so the goal is to get this wall torn down.
Unlike the home remodel in LA, this time Phontaine knew what he was doing and had better energy.
Good job, guys.
In just 2 months, we completely gutted and redid the kitchen and the laundry room and the bathrooms.
During that time, Phontaine noticed strange hostility coming from Lynn's wife, Linda. At Thanksgiving, the Judds got the typical invitation to join Lynn for dinner, but this time it came with some restrictions.
My mother-in-law approached me and said, I don't want the kids in the house, okay? So can you keep the kids outside? And so I was like, okay. So we have dinner and everyone else goes inside to watch TV and visit and drink and what have you. And I'm outside, it's kind of cold, it's getting dark. I can't just leave my kids outside. There's a pool out there without a gate. So I'm out there like, okay, I'm playing lifeguard. And it really felt like we were unwelcome guests.
About a week later, Hannah gave birth to twin babies. The Judd family was now a dozen members strong. Phontaine and Hannah had 6 daughters and 4 sons. Despite all their offers falling through, the Judds kept up their search for a house that could fit their growing family. Then one day, they came across a large house on a 1-acre lot.
It was $200,000 cheaper than the other house we had been trying to buy previously. And we're like looking at it and we're like, it's too good to be true. There has to be a catch here.
Phontaine called and got in touch with the listing agent.
The voice on the other line goes, oh, it's okay, Phontaine. I'm going to get you in that house. And I was like, how do you know who I am? Who is this? It turned out it was the listing agent for one of the other houses that we had missed out on. She took a liking to our family, and it turned out that the house was her sister-in-law's and she was losing it as a short sale. And so she wanted to make sure that it went to a family like ours.
Despite finding what seemed to be an ideal house, the Judds were still worried about Fontaine's work.
I wasn't exactly sure what I was supposed to be doing career-wise. Was I supposed to change careers or what? I didn't know.
He would try traveling back to LA for work a few more times, but the results were not good. His health had improved in Sacramento, but every week he spent working in LA, his health started going downhill.
After only a couple of months of working down in LA, all the old problems started coming back. His health had gone completely backwards.
The Judds finally came to the conclusion that working in Hollywood was no longer an option.
I was not willing to do that to my family again.
In early January 2013, the Judds sent out a birth announcement for the baby twins. The very next day, they got a phone call from the owner of one of the largest reality TV production companies in Hollywood. It was none other than Craig Piligian. Craig Piligian had been Fontaine's boss when the Judds were still living in LA. He was the owner of Pilgrim Films and TV, and at the time was listed as one of the top 20 most powerful people in Hollywood. With the Judds on the phone, Craig got right to the point. He wanted to make a reality TV show about their family. He said the Judds had the coolest kid names and the best-looking family, and that they should have a TV show. But the Judds were not sure what to think.
I don't know about the whole best-looking family bit, and I was skeptical how interesting we were, because in Hollywood, nobody has kids, let alone more than one. To people in Hollywood, I was like this walking freak show with 5 kids.
We had been approached before by people in Hollywood saying, oh, can we do a reality TV show about your family? And I turned it down flat. There's no way I would do that. But this time it was a little different because we knew Craig and we trusted Craig.
Hannah and Phontaine had many questions.
My first question was, how much control could I have over the content? Could I be a producer, the executive producer, or the editor? I mean, could I edit it?
But more importantly, they were concerned about their kids.
Reality TV is all about conflict.
What is her ticket number? What is her ticket number? She's crazy.
And when there isn't conflict, they create conflict. In our family, our goal is to avoid conflict, not search it out, and definitely not feed it. I didn't want a reality show to ruin our family relationships.
You're the biggest baby I ever met.
I am not.
Hannah had concerns as well.
I wasn't sure that I really wanted my kids in the spotlight because if you think about it, when has fame done any kid any good? Then there was a safety concern. There are going to be a bunch of people I don't know following my kids around, filming them, and there's no way I could watch all my kids all the time.
Phontaine called his longtime friend and co-worker, whose advice was to be careful. Phontaine also talked to his father and his church leaders. The advice varied. Some said it was a bad idea, while others said it was a great opportunity. Hannah reached out to her friend Elena Huffman for advice. Elena went to church with Hannah and was also a successful actor for TV and movies.
She did shows like Stargate and Supernatural and stuff like that. So she had a lot of experience in front of the camera and she would know what to expect. She was a good friend of mine and I trusted her.
To Hannah's surprise, Elena thought a reality show was a great idea.
She encouraged me to go ahead and do it.
Elena then made an unexpected recommendation.
She said, you know, Hannah, the person you need to talk to, though, is my husband, John. He is actually my manager, and he always negotiates the best deals for me. Like, I don't know how he does it, but he's really good at what he does.
Hannah and Phontaine discussed what to do and came up with a list of possible benefits from having a reality show.
We thought that the positives outweighed the negatives. Where's the birthday girl? Oh, there she is. Boo-boo.
The next day, the Judds called Craig Piligian back and told him they were willing to go forward. And Craig set up dates for a film crew to come.
Do it again, do it again. All right, very good.
The Judds were anxious about having a film crew come to their home. They had newborn twins and were exhausted. Because their house was so small, Hannah was worried the babies would wake everyone else up. So she opted to sleep in the living room away from the rest of the family.
I figured it was better that one person was exhausted rather than the entire family.
But then one night around midnight, Hannah was up feeding the babies when she noticed police lights. She peeked out the curtains and saw several police cars in front of the home of the new neighbor who had just moved in. Hannah did not know why the police were there that night. The next day, Phontaine and Caleb were out in the street practicing throwing the football like usual. Suddenly, a police car came whipping around the corner. The officer asked Phontaine about a naked toddler playing in the street.
I was so confused. I told him it was just me and my son playing catch in the street. But I was thinking, like, if there really was a toddler in the street, why are you driving like a maniac? You're gonna run the kid over.
The officer realized the report was inaccurate and left. A few days later, Hannah found a note on her front porch. It said, "Open with care."
I began to read it, and at first it sounded kind of like a busybody neighbor. It started saying things like, your kids should really be in school, and you shouldn't be giving your kids so much Gatorade. So I thought, well, first off, my kids are in school, and we're just drinking Gatorade because the doctors at the Mayo Clinic said that when you have low blood pressure, you should do that.
Hannah noticed the letter quickly became bizarre.
It started to contradict itself. It went from telling me how unhealthy Gatorade is, that it has sugar and artificial colors, and in the next paragraph telling me that I should really be giving my kids more candy. I'm like, who is this?
The letter accused the Judd kids of stealing money and candy out of the neighborhood cars and houses.
My kids, they were very young still at this point. I wasn't like letting them go off to other people's houses. They were very well supervised.
The letter ended by saying there was poop in Hannah's house, and the person was horrified whenever they came over.
And then they said, please never come back. I hate you in my life. Sincerely, Anonymous. Even though I knew none of it was true, just the accusations hurt. And because it ended with, I hate you, it was clearly somebody who was angry at me. But I also noticed that whoever wrote the letter knew my children by name, so it wasn't like a random stranger. This was probably one of my neighbors.
Right about the time the film crew from Pilgrim was scheduled to arrive, Hannah got an unexpected knock at the door. And to her surprise, it was Child Protective Services.